A minute. I'll call to order the Thursday, February 6, 2025 meeting of the Criminal Justice Committee. I assume all members have had a chance to preview the minutes from the previous meeting. So I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Oh, same sign, motion carries. Finance report.
You will find your finance reports in your packet. You'll see you have a project income statement through January 23rd of 2025. No expenses have been expended through that fund thus far. And so your cash fund is $111,886.23. If you have any questions, I will attempt to answer them.
Questions of the finance report? Hearing none, we'll move down to the sheriff's report.
Good morning. You should have your report in front of you or have it available to you. Just a few things I wanted to point out. Usually in February, I'll present my kind of our goals and objectives for the year coming up. And as such, I did so in this report. Some of the things that we do all the time, I kind of took out of goals and objectives. For example, hiring and recruiting retention. That's something that is just what we do, and it's part of our daily stuff now. So I wanted to kind of remove that and concentrate on some other things, and employee wellness, reducing fatal and serious vehicle crashes, and increase inmate programming and improved environment were the three that we really want to focus on. And I don't think there's anyone who would not agree that we've had a lot of crashes and serious ones in Lenawee County, and we need to come up with a way of reducing those. So that's one of our goals, and kind of put the objectives below that. So unless anyone has any questions on any of that, also just kind of a note, we did receive money for our 3 recruits that we have in the police academy. We have 3 in the Lansing Academy, and I mentioned before they went in that there is money through the state of Michigan, and we applied for that, and I've already been granted that, and so that is a good thing. We expect that there'll probably be money at the next round, and we're hoping to send 3 more to that academy. So lastly, we kind of came to an end of a very long project. I think I've been working on it for 4 years, and that's the Tyler to Clemmis interface. And so all of the agencies are very happy, as well as we are, that now there's not a duplication of effort. And I think it opens up a lot of very good opportunities, not just for us, but pretty much for anyone who's a Tyler customer and a Clemmis customer. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions of the sheriff? Commissioner Van Dorn.
So Sheriff, what's the current status of deputies? Are we not at full count? I take it if we got 3 in and we're looking at doing 3 more. So.
Correct. I believe we're 8 down at this point. So we're looking at, we have 3 in the academy. We would like to send 3 more to the academy in, I believe, May. we are continuing to find applicants and we're continuing to find good applicants, which is not always the case, and that could dry up rather quickly. So that's just what we do, and so hopefully we're going to be at the point where we're maybe only one position open when we get into the summer, which will be a good thing. Of course, with as everyone probably here knows, Faster Horses is not going, so that's going to give us a little bit of a break on making sure that we have enough people. So.
Sure, I'm sorry, do you have another question? Does everybody understand what he referred to when he talked about Tyler and Clemens? Does anybody needs an explanation? Well, I'm sure Dave does. In fact, I'm remiss here. For those of you who don't know, and I'm sure just about everybody does, the new commissioner is Commissioner Ungst. Previously ran the dispatch center, is now commissioner, one of the new commissioners. Any questions of the sheriff? Commissioner Van Dorn.
Just a comment, probably preparing for 2026 and Faster Horses news release. It sounds like while you may not have to worry about it this year, you might have to worry about it being bigger and better next year.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Well, hopefully we'll be bigger and better ourselves.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Bigger, better, and safer.
Right.
Absolutely.
Further questions? Hearing none, we will move to the prosecuting attorney.
Any questions?
You have her report in your minutes. Are there any questions, the prosecutor? Hearing none, you did well today. We'll move down to the public defender's office.
Our caseload is about the same as it always is this time of year. It usually will pick up a little bit once the warmer weather comes, but nothing out of the ordinary. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions, the public defender's office. It's gonna be a quick one today. Hearing none, we'll move down to emergency management.
Again, my report was attached. Just highlight a couple of things. We're starting our year 2 of our STOP grant, which is Stop the School Violence and Training in the Schools. Was very happy with year 1 and the amount of participation we had. In fact, both of our contractors said that they couldn't believe the participation that we had for year 1. So that was really good. I also want to let members of this committee know we're doing a tabletop exercise on March 18th at 9:00 at Madison Township Fire Department, and would like to invite anybody that would like to come and observe, that you're more than welcome. The scenario is a train derailment with a hazardous chemical release occurring on the train tracks right there by the fire department across M52. So more than happy to have you come and observe. And we've got fire, EMS, road commission, MDOT, hospital, Madison schools, the hazmat team. So we got quite a few participants in that. So wanted to extend that invitation. And then as long as Chris is here, Chris Forg works in my office. I want to give him a kudos. Our drone program here at the county is, I think, one of the best around with the number of drones we have. And that's all because of Chris. It's kind of like herding cats, but he's making sure that training occurs twice a month. He keeps track of all the pilots, who's licensed, who still needs to get licensed. If they're not showing up to trainings, if he has to purge that pilot list, he does that as well. So without him running that program, our drone program wouldn't be anywhere close to what it is right now. And then the same thing with our rescue task force. He does other things in my office, but those are the 2 main projects that he's in charge of. And without him in there, we wouldn't be where we are. So I want to give him kudos on that.
Commissioner Van Dorn.
Can you give us the date again? March, what was it?
18th,
18th.
it's a Tuesday.
And,
9 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's just a tabletop. It's not any of us required, so
nope.
Okay.
And it's at Madison Township Fire Department in their training room,
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock.
Thank you.
As part of this table, you'll not be doing any actual outside activity. You're not going to
No,
shut
it's
down.
just a discussion based, everybody sitting around the table. Chris will facilitate it. And it'll just be, what would you do type of thing. Jen Ambrose is also coming as a county PIO. The health department will be there as well,
Further questions?
and the Department on Aging will be there,
Wow.
and MDHHS.
Where are you going to put all these people?
It's quite a big training room.
I know I've been. Any further questions, comments? Hearing none, we'll move to the medical examiner.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Just to expand on what was submitted already. So 2024, Lenawee County had 344 total medical examiner cases with 108 autopsies. And Hillsdale County had 112 cases with 38 autopsies. Lenawee was up in our caseload. Hillsdale was down. So I like to think it balanced out a little bit. For 2025 so far, we've had 124 cases in January and February thus far. Most of those, Jackson County has had 81 cases. That's a lot. Lenawee County has had 27 and Hillsdale County has had 16. The fun part we've experienced multiple times lately is when we're paged out, and Dave Onks will definitely be able to test to something like this. We're paged out at cases come in back to back, very close to each other. So for example, was it last Friday, I think, we were paged out twice in Hillsdale, twice in Lenawee at the same time. And we usually only have one investigator on call. So it really creates a problem for us. A lot of times Dave Nowland will step in and go somewhere to help the investigator that's already at a scene or going to a scene when something else is paged out. So it is a big problem for us that I hope we can find a resolution to. If anybody has I have some ideas, of course, but if anybody has any ideas, I'm all ears. But that is Murphy's Law. We're an office run by Murphy's Law, just like the sheriff. Yeah. So, yeah, so, also recently on Tuesday, I did a presentation at Hospice of Lenawee, regarding reporting to the medical examiner, what you can report, what needs to be reported, what doesn't need to be reported. It was a very good meeting. We have a very good rapport with Hospice of Lenawee. So I was really glad to reach out with them. I gave them some material that they can share with their nurses that were not there. And it was very positive. So we are always open to do that with any entity that deals with health or people that are actively passing away. So we did that. I've also recently done that in Jackson a couple times too. So we did that this week. I had another career fair with Lenawee Align recently at Clinton Middle School. It was fun. We have one tomorrow at Madison High School, and Sherry Hanna, one of our investigators, is going to be with me at that one because it's the gym type of career fair where the kids come around and you might have multiple kids coming up to you at different times. So it is helpful for me to have an investigator there, and it's just cool to have an investigator there anyways. So also, one other thing I wanted to mention, we did have a visit recently with the Gift of Life medical examiner liaison. And he came up to the Jackson office where the morgue is. And we check in with each other every once in a while, but he brought referral numbers. I did not bring them with me, but just so you know, referrals are up for all of the counties. And so they were very pleased with that. The more referrals you have, the more donors you may end up having. So of course, Gift of Life likes that. So I just thought I'd mention that. And other than that, that's all for me, unless anybody has questions.
Questions of medical examiner? Commissioner August?
Sarah, how many investigators do you have and how many open positions?
Right, we're currently low. That's because I've had one investigator that has been wanting to cover as much time as possible. So I think I'm at 6 investigators, active investigators right now. I have brought one on for training, but it is not working out. They insist that they can do this. I'm available, and what happens is their other job always takes them away from me. So I have 6 right now. My most active investigator is going to have something coming up this spring where he will be unavailable for a number of weeks. So I have to figure that out. Oh, thank you.
Is there an optimum number? Like-
It just depends on what people's availabilities are. Like I said, I have one investigator that's very available to me. Dave is my whole filler, Dave Nowland. I have Sherry Hanna that gives me quite a lot of time, and then several other people that give me a handful of call times on the schedule. So it just depends. I would probably like to have one more active investigator. What I would really love is if I could find somebody who is retired or they don't have a completely other dedicated full-time job where they can be the step-in person. And perhaps that will work out if we get this tri-county system finally developed. I really want to hire a chief MEI for all 3 counties. That person maybe could fill this in, but I don't know how long that's going to take. So in the meantime, I may have to bring in somebody else to survive.
Further questions, comments? Mr. Krasny?
I know a few commissioners that could fill the void of the part-time role.
I would
Just
take 'em.
saying, just
I would
saying,
take 'em.
just saying. No, thank you for mentioning Gift of Life. I've toured that organization several times, and it's just a wonderful thing that we need to bring more awareness to. Just a terrific organization, and so thank you for mentioning that. That's a big issue that's going to continue to increase the need
Yes.
in society. So thank you.
Welcome.
Questions, comments?
And I do want to put out there, any of you are welcome at any time. I know the morgue is up in Jackson, so it's a drive. I would do it in nicer weather, but you are welcome at any time for a tour.
Very good. All right, moving down to courts. I don't see anybody here from the courts. Do we have a report from them? Okay, hearing nothing from the courts. Maurice Bear Campus.
Construction seems to be the biggest thing going on at the campus right now. Shannon and I were in a meeting on Wednesday. I think we're about 40% somewhere around in there, I think, in completion. So things are going good. Set the roof last week, hoping to get the roof on within the next week or so. So they're doing a lot of cosmetic stuff on the outside as far as, mortar and, getting curbing on and everything so they can get the roof on. They've worked through all of the weather pretty much, so they're not really, they fall a little bit behind with the days, but I wouldn't say anything out of the ordinary. It's gone very well. So other than that, we're just trying to fill some positions, just like, a lot of other people are having the same issues. We've down about 3 staff. We've been at full staff for most of the year of 24. So we recently hired a new head cook, so we're excited about that. And she should be starting in 2 weeks, and maybe I can stop cooking a little bit. I've been in the kitchen a lot more in the last, since December than I ever have in my time at the campus for sure. But things are headed in the right way. We're ready for Carrie to come over in the Department on Aging and open that kitchen for sure. That is going to be a big help. So.
Questions, you might want to address the recent problem that has added to your woes.
Yeah, sure. So recently we had our roof, the drain froze during the cold weather and backed up and flooded the front offices at the campus. So Friday morning, I got a call about 3:30 and we were flooded completely out into the dining area. All of the offices, carpet, we had to take everything out. We lost the ceilings. It's just been an ongoing event. The drain froze, backed up, and what happens after that. So our roof needed repaired. It caused damage to the drain. That was repaired. The drain commission come out and fix the tile. So now we're back up, but we've got everybody crammed into my office and two other offices. So we're pretty tight right now. So if you do come to the campus, just ring the doorbell. Somebody will come find you. We'll get you through there. But it's just a lot of a lot of dealing with a lot of awkwardness in the office area. So, but we'll get through it. I'm not sure how long we're going to be like that, but I got a feeling it's going to be for a while. So.
Very good. Any questions, comments? Okay, moving on to updates and other business. Save the date for the reentry simulation. Oh, there.
Good morning. Everyone should have in their packet Lenawee County reentry simulation. We are hosting and partner with the State Court Administrator's Office, Friend of the Court Bureau, Michigan Judicial Institute, and Tailor Made Reentry. And it's a reentry simulation for people and participants to experience what it's like to be released from jail or prison and the obstacles to do that. I don't know, in Lenawee County, that we have a poverty simulation that's very popular. This is very similar to that, based on the scopes of people being released. So it's not on there, but 84% of people who go to prison are released back into our community. Not specifically our community, but communities all over Michigan. So there are two events, one in the morning and one in the afternoon. You either can be a participant or you can volunteer. So the participation is you will go through 4 15-minute periods, about 15 minutes, is a week of what you have to complete. So you're given a packet of a scenario of who you are released, and what you need to do through that week. And first of all, you need to go to the Secretary of State to get some form of ID, but you need a bus ticket in order to do that. So you're given one bus ticket. And so then you have to go check in with probation or parole. If you have to get a drug test before you do that. You have to meet all these requirements. And so it has you experience some of the challenges that people have when they're re-entered into society. Now, if you don't complete that after your 1 week period, you end up in the county jail. When I participated in this, I spent most of my time in the county jail because I couldn't do that. And to be released from the county jail, you have to post bond, which means you have to have money and you have to have a bus ticket. So I was able to get a little crafty to get a bus ticket and negotiate out. And so I was always owing people. With this presentation, after the 4 week period, there's a little debriefing and there's two presentations. One, Percy Glover, who works with Genesee County Sheriff's Office. He is very active in jail reentry, does a presentation, and Tailor Made Reentry will do one as well. And then we will do that in the afternoon as well. So if you don't want to participate to being a participant, if you'd like to volunteer, there's a volunteer section that you could work for the Secretary of State, probation, parole, the bank, different opportunities to do that, to engage so you can kind of experience that. And they'll want you to get into a role that maybe isn't so pleasant because we may have experienced those that people aren't so willing to help or assist to do that. So that's going to be on March 14th. It's going to be at the Human Services Building. We have 9 to 11:30, 1 to 3:30. You can sign up until the day before. The links are attached in the flyer. And the PM group seems to be filled very nicely. So if you're looking to volunteer, the AM group would be an opportunity for you that we would appreciate. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions, comments? Hearing none, thank you very much. Hearing none, item B, Robertson Brain Health Program discussion.
So
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm going to give a pretty high level kind of description of the Robertson Brain Health Program. Last fall, Administrator Murphy and actually Commissioner Collins and I were able to see a program from the Robertson Brain Health at the Michigan Association of Counties Conference. And the presentation was on brain health and trap stress. They focused mainly on law enforcement and government employees and officials. Essentially what it is it's a tailor-made program that helps you, they develop a plan for you that tailored directly to your brain health, your genetics, your environment, your life choices, and it helps prevent diseases, or it helps essentially you manage diseases or behaviors or moods and emotions better, especially when it comes to trap stress. And that's that stress that just kind of keeps piling upon us and we're not really able to let it go because it just comes at us every day, multiple times a day. We thought having a discussion, and you're going to see this presentation, a larger presentation from Dr. Robertson next Tuesday at Personnel Ways and Means. But we thought it might be helpful for you to hear from some of our department heads about what those day-to-day and coping skills will look like. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Administrator Murphy, who's going to start that discussion.
Before Kim starts talking, I might say, especially having a background in law enforcement administration as I was super impressed with this individual in the program. The sheriff from Ottawa County, the sheriff from Ottawa County also spoke. He could not say enough good about this program. And he was very, I won't say opposed, but concerned about it initially, because law enforcement obviously has this, we can handle this attitude. We can do it. The fortress wall goes up. He sang his praises from A to Z and could not say enough. So I'm sold on the program. Go ahead.
Thank you. So this is meant to be an open dialogue conversation. So as anyone is speaking, and if anyone has questions or want to join in, I'm hoping to have that general dialogue this morning. As the deputy indicated, Dr. Robertson will be at Ways and Means on Tuesday, along with some of his staff. He has about a 30-minute presentation where he's going to go into a lot of detail and a lot of statistics, as well as what this program could mean to Lenawee County employees. And we will also discuss the cost factor. So that'll all happen in what we would be potentially looking at as a pilot program next Tuesday. Because that presentation is going to be so lengthy, I didn't feel that commissioners would, with everything else on the agenda, have the ability to really take in what some of the departments feel about this program. A few weeks ago, we had a department head meeting, which we have those quarterly. And during that conversation, we talked about this exact program. And there's a few of them today that are going to want to talk to you so that you can get a feeling from their perspective and what their employees are dealing with. We often talk about the concern we have with law enforcement personnel because of the trap stress that they have. And I know the sheriff wants to talk about that, so I'm not going to go into that in a lot of detail. But what we don't realize is that we all have this. So to gauge that, have you ever had a hard time falling asleep at night? Staying asleep at night? Waking up with your mind going a million miles a minute? Being tired? Have you ever been so caught up in whatever you have going on at work or at your home or just life in general, and you're so frustrated, but you don't know how to get rid of that frustration? We all have our own coping mechanisms. Some of us may go to the gym. Maybe you're a runner. Maybe you binge eat. Maybe whatever your source is, we all find our own ways to try to cope with all that stress that we have inside that we don't know what to do with. This program will help us as individuals to identify what our triggers are. And those triggers affect our brain. That's why it's called brain health. Our brain is the processor of a lot of different chemicals that then impact the rest of our body and our health. You've heard of dopamine, you've heard of serotonin, you've heard a number of chemicals in our body. And depending on where those levels are in your body, you're going to experience different things. As an example, if you've ever felt overwhelmed, I've wrote a few things down because I wanted to kind of bring them home for you. If you've experienced muscle tension or tightness, aches and pains as a result of just being stressed out. If your serotonin and dopamine levels are off, you're going to experience different things. So if your serotonin levels are off, you may experience depression, sadness, anger, or many other symptoms. If your serotonin levels are high, you may experience confusion, tremors, anxiety. With your dopamine levels, if they're low, you may feel a lack of energy. You may feel tired, weak. And if they're high, you may feel uncomfortable, experience maybe some paranoia, some anxiety, some concern. Now, I know we don't like to talk about these things because we all want to think that we're strong and we can handle it. We got this. And the old way of thinking, which I'm sorry, a number of us in this room, other than maybe a couple, were always told is deal with it. Figure it out, deal with it, move on, bury it down, do whatever you have to do. But there's a job to be done. You're expected to do it. Get over it and get yourself back to work. A lot of us have heard that. And a lot of us have tried to do that. And what we're seeing now is those of us that are on the more mature end of life, I will say. Commissioner Krasny, I'm not pointing you out. Don't be giving faces. In life. Mature in life, in age. Anyway, we know what that experience is like. And we know that we have lived through experiences in our own lives, our own form of trauma, our own form of trapped stress, and we have dealt with it differently. But I think we can also look at today's environment, and we can see that the environment today is different than the one was than we grew up in. And I don't know what it looks like for our grandchildren as they're growing up. There's a lot more stress. There's a lot more anger. There's a lot more frustration. There's a lot that's going on in the world today. And so people at a younger age with a lot of responsibility are expected to handle some of those same instances that we are handling at a more mature age at a younger age. And so what is going on in their brains when their brains aren't even fully developed yet, and they're forced to be on a scene where there's a shooting, be an election clerk where their life is being threatened because somebody doesn't like the way the election is being handled, or many of these other situations. A number of governmental employees, as we say, we hear that law enforcement is high. Their level of stress and trapped stress is up here, and no doubt it is. But statistics are showing that more and more governmental executives, school teachers, school executives, that trauma, that stress that they're experiencing in some areas is actually higher than what law enforcement is seeing. I never would have guessed that. I know how I feel. I can't imagine how it would be to be a prosecutor, to be a sheriff, to be a medical examiner, to be a public defender. I can't imagine what it would feel like to be in some and do some of the work that they do and see some of the things that they see on a daily basis. I can only approach life from my perspective and what I've seen. So because of the presentation on Tuesday and the data that you're going to hear, some of the department heads thought it would be a good idea, and I agree with them, and I encourage them to have that open dialogue with you today. We have 5 commissioners here today that can take what they are hearing from the departments and listen to that and process that along with whatever that presentation is going to look like next Tuesday. So with that, I would like to open it up to the floor. I know that there's a few department heads here that would like to speak. And please, if you have questions, I would like to answer those questions today. I'm going to just take a seat over here, allow you guys to speak, and then I can come up afterwards and kind of wrap this up. But Sheriff, I think you wanted to kind of get started.
Thank you. So I saw his presentation, Dr. Robertson's presentation, probably about 2 or 3 years ago at a Michigan Sheriff's Conference. He came in and did a presentation. It was kind of early on. No one had really heard of it. And of course, they brought up Ottawa County, and trying to compare it to Ottawa County is difficult. But we were absolutely blown away by his presentation. And probably the things that stuck out most in my mind about it was we, like Kim said, we've gone through in our careers, we go through law enforcement with the idea that, you know, you take your call, you move on to the next one, you kind of shake it off, you don't let anything kind of get to you. And that was really the old way of thinking. And after a while, that old way of thinking has a tendency to really weigh on people. And we're seeing that now, and we're seeing that stress. The interesting part that I was thinking about when I heard that he was coming here and that it might have the opportunity in Lenawee County is more and more our younger deputies, the ones that have 2 and 3 years on, if that, are seeing more and more and more trauma. They're seeing more serious events. You know, the things that we're seeing, that they're seeing now, we didn't see 15 years ago at that level. Sure, we had some events, and so we kind of liken it to, as we go through our careers, it's kind of like carrying a backpack on your back. And every time you go to an event, every time you go to something like a fatal crash or a brutal domestic assault, something that is just horrific that our people deal with on a day-to-day basis, it's one more brick in that pack. And then as you go through your career, that trauma and that weighs on you over and over again. And our way of dealing with it in the past has just been, you deal with it. You don't talk about it. Some people self-medicate. Some people do other things. There's no secret that law enforcement, one of the highest fields for divorce, suicide, all of that. And we can see why that happens, because we were taught early on that you just, you took on this career and you just suck it up. That's not the way that it should happen. And shame on us if we don't recognize that we have to change, because we can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and expect different results with it. We have a shortage right now. We have a shortage of police, dispatchers, corrections officers, and it's not going to get any better. You heard about, you heard it on our staffing, and I'm not alone. Throughout Michigan, other sheriffs and other police agencies have the same problem. So what that tells me is we better take care of our people. You've heard me say that employee wellness is one of our huge goals. And that's because we got to do something. We have stood up what we call a peer support team. And that's a great first step, because now we have our own people helping our people. But we gotta kind of take that next step. And this program is a huge next step. I didn't think it would be possible in Lenawee County, and knowing that it is, and knowing that it's something that is very much needed, I couldn't be more supportive of this. And I think that our people will echo the same thing. It's a great opportunity to show them that yeah, we recognize that we can't just keep doing the things that we did over and over again.
Anybody else wish to speak? Certainly. Mr. Crafty.
I guess my only question was, there you are. You had outlined this before. Is this a pilot program? Is this a long-term program? What are sort of the costs with relation to, is it a flat fee? Is it depending on how many people sign up for it, et cetera?
So I'll get into that. I know there's a couple other people here that do want to talk to you. The answer to that question is yes, to all of those things. It can be whatever we want it to be. The presentation that's going to come to you on Tuesday, and it will be included in your Ways and Means packet that will be available on Friday, will have Dr. Roberts' presentation. It'll also have some cost information in there. What we will be suggesting or proposing is what we call a 2025 pilot program with 2 cohorts. Those cohorts will begin with command staff in law enforcement, the command or leadership in Maurice Spear campus, and some within the administrator's office. There is a cost to that. Right now, I do not recall what that cost is because I got it before I went on vacation and I forgot to look at it before walking in here, so I apologize. But then there's another cohort that is the department heads within the county, and their number two, their backup person, their assistant, their deputy, whatever it is that they have. And what we want to do is we want to get through that cohort, the two cohorts. So one would start and maybe 3 months later, another one would start. And you have to understand that it's not just, hey, let's fill out this questionnaire. Here's all your things. Here's your booklet about you and go figure yourself out. It comes with intensive training. And it will be a process that goes over a year long. And we want to evaluate it and say, did we notice a difference in that program? Did those individuals experience a difference? If they did, and if we think that it was justifiable, we can move on. And we do have potential cost estimates for a future cohorts that could include other groupings within the county of our employees. So it can look however we want it to look. So there's nothing that is forever committed. Also, as we talk about this, if we get into this and we're like, well, we don't like the way this is going, we stop. There's no long-term commitment to the county. But it is new, it is different. I will also indicate before, I think Carrie or Monica or Rod speak, that a number of years ago, the commission found value in requiring employees and their spouses to take annual medical evaluations. Call them our insurance exams, basically, to make sure that our employees were being seen by a doctor on an annual basis. That was to get an idea and potentially stop any long-term serious illness that the employee or their spouse may have, which impacts our annual premiums. And you have seen, although our premiums are increasing, just as everybody's does, our insurance premiums are increasing at a lower rate than a number of our comparables are. And you will hear that that is because we are identifying illnesses before they have become a stage 3, a stage 4, a stage anything. We're able to get to those sooner. This program will assist in those areas. The sheriff brought some of that up, but we are really looking at a lot of mental health, which then therefore impacts our physical health, which will further, hopefully, reduce not only insurance rates, because we are identifying health issues. If you look at accounts payable, you can see, if you look at our insurance information, you can see we have a number of employees that are getting mental health services, and that is perfectly fine because we're recognizing the value in that mental health. But it will also potentially impact lawsuits that the county sustains. Oftentimes, we have lawsuits because we have, and I want to be very careful with the way I say this, but there are times when, as an employee, we are very stressed, and we may react in a situation differently than when had we been able to manage that stress that we were experiencing. So a program like this, although there is a cost associated, Commissioner Krasny, could also potentially reduce cost in other areas. So it's just one of the things that we will be getting into a little more detail on Tuesday. But for now, the departments that had asked to speak, I wanted to make sure that you heard them.
Commissioner Van Doren.
Yes, I have a number of questions, but I agree. I think my questions may be influenced by the presentation. So I'd like to hear the presentations before I present my question.
I agree. You want to speak?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me after going through the presentation, I wasn't really sure what to think when I went in there. About 5 minutes into the presentation, I was just kind of like, he got his claws into me, and I was really listening and was really intrigued on all of the education piece of it. And number one, to be recognized by, the county, and that somebody is looking out for all of the county employees and kind of bringing us together. So I was really honored to be there. I think the biggest thing that sticks out with me is at the campus, we deal with a lot of trauma every day and triggers and stressors. And if our staff can't manage those things, how are they going to teach the kids? Kim talked about future kids, grandchildren, what it's going to be like in the community. If you have people working in for the county and working in the community, they can't handle that. How are they going to teach these kids? And that's where I come into it. Like, I mean, I can't talk about every day at the campus, but like yesterday was a very stressful day for all of us. We've got water damage, we've got board day, we've got meals to cook, we've got court hearings, we've got, you talk about mental health. We had probably 13 mental health appointments yesterday. So it's just a lot that I think everybody could benefit from, especially at the campus. It's probably could be one of the best training pieces that we could offer for our staff. And I think they need it. I think they're stressed. The sheriff talks about, turnover and hiring people. We want to keep people longer. I think when people feel that, when they feel that somebody is supporting them, they seem to respond better and they want to do a better job. So, I mean, I think it was a wonderful program. I'm very supportive of it. I hope it happens. I think my staff would benefit from it a lot. I think everybody in the county would. It's just, I mean, it's what we deal with every day, stressors. And then to be able to understand, like what Kim said about the health part of it, what it does for you as an individual and how you can change that and change things in your life. I think about, like they said, you look around all the different things that everybody deals with every day and all the stressors. I mean, a sheriff's phone rings at 2:00 in the morning. What does he think? Police chief gets a phone call at 2:00 in the morning, emergency man. I mean, it's like, it's the same thing for me. If I get a call in the middle of the night, I'm like, oh, what is it? And it's like, that's a stressor right there. Everybody knows that, it's like, you don't get good phone calls at 2:00 in the morning. Somebody wants to just chit chat. So, I think it could benefit everybody. I'd love to see it happen for sure.
Gary, okay. Buddy.
I will share really quick because speaking of a stressor, I have an 11 o'clock that I have to. On a public health perspective, everything that we do has a direct impact on residents. Whether it's excluding people for communicable diseases or issuing an order to vacate a property. Throw in a pandemic or, avian influenza or a very, very tense public health environment, all of our team struggles every day. Over the few years, we've been faced with threats, not only to ourselves, but our families. We face slander all the time. And, it's difficult to tell everybody that it's okay, because it's not okay. Everybody comes to serve the public and it's just part of the job, but it is something that I think that they could really benefit from and start to understand that it's not them personally, it's the situation. So I would really like to explore more of this program and I think it would be really beneficial. So thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I wasn't sure I'd get to chat with you, so I wrote a letter, so I'll read it because it will keep it clear. But when Administrator Murphy shared this, my aha went off and it will make sense here reading. So after learning about the Robinson Brain Health Initiative, I wanted to express my strong interest in making this resource available to my staff. It's easy to assume that working at the Department on Aging comes with minimal stress, limited to the basic responsibilities outlined in each job description. The reality, however, is far from that. Over the past 10 years as director of this department, I have witnessed firsthand their growing burdens and stresses that extend well beyond the scope of any single role. For example, our frontline workers, those entering homes and meeting directly with caregivers, face clients experiencing profound challenges each day. They encounter individuals grieving the loss of loved ones, battling terminal or debilitating diseases, and struggling with isolation due to limited family connections. They see homes in decline, rising cost of food and medications, and other basic unmet needs. What might seem like a simple task as ensuring an older adult's home is safe and sanitary often evolves into promoting or providing emotional support, connecting clients with resources, and quietly carrying the emotional weight of those encounters. When these burdens accumulate across multiple clients, the stress on each employee can be overwhelming. On top of their professional challenges, these employees juggle personal issues related to family, finances, everyday life demands, which can lead to erratic attendance and reduced capacity to perform effectively. Our managers in home care, nutrition, and adult day programs face similar pressures. They not only support client needs beyond the scope of their programs, but also absorb the personal and professional struggles of each employee they supervise. Balancing these responsibilities takes a toll, often manifesting in health issues, irritability, and job dissatisfaction. This pattern is evident across our entire organization. I've observed office staff handle calls from aggressive, dissatisfied clients, many of whom are upset about issues way beyond our department's control. Despite enduring verbal abuse, these staff members must immediately pivot to their next call with professionalism and composure. Over time, the cumulative effect of this emotional strain becomes difficult to compartmentalize, impacting morale and job performance. When I look at the dedicated individuals serving our community, I see a group that deserve robust support to help them thrive. When our staff is at their best, they can provide consistent, compassionate care to older adults through meals, safe living environments, personal care, caregiver respite, meaningful activities, and vital resource connections. Please let me know how I can support this project.
Thank you.
Thanks, Gary.
Is there anyone else who wishes to address this committee? Kim, statement.
I know we're getting close to the next meeting getting started, so I just want to say thank you to all of you for taking the time to listen to the departments today that did come forward. There are many, many more stories like these. If you can just kind of wrap your head around all the different positions in the county, from courts, can you imagine being a probation officer who goes into a home for juveniles and you're in a home on your own with no support, with no bulletproof vest, nothing like that. And then you have a situation with a youngster where they begin to self-mutilate. What are you doing? How does that impact you? You are a medical investigator that is going onto a scene and you're seeing the trauma of what happens to a body on a very often basis, or you're in the morgue having to deal with that. And not only that, but then the families that are calling because they want their loved one. They want to understand what happened. You can go to almost any department in this county and you will find levels of stress due to the situation that we have to do. You could go to any of your jobs that you may have in your own lives and identify those same stressors. What we're looking for here is to potentially consider bringing a program in that we have identified the funding for and potentially allow our employees to work through a process and see if it is helpful to them or not. There's no recommendation or anything expected today. It was just an opportunity during a committee meeting to talk to you and allow the departments to come to you and explain how they feel about the program. So.
Mr. Van Dorn.
Well, thank you. I think that's pretty impressive. I have a couple questions and not necessarily related to funding because we'll get into that eventually. But of course, you know, the commissioners are always concerned about funding, but the number of cohorts that you're talking about, it seems like, you know, if we're going to take a look at this and see how it affects people, I certainly understand department heads because you want it driven from the top down. Okay. But then you talked about deputies and you talked about, I mean, how many in the cohorts, how many people, because I take it this is a paid per person thing.
It is paid per person. And it is one of these things where the more people you have involved, the lower the cost is per person. I have that outline in my office that we can kind of go over if you'd like. I don't recall. You figure, I don't know that all of our potential 500 employees is something that we need to do here. That's an analysis that we will need to continue to look at. But as we get through, my goal right now is the pilot program, quite frankly.
Sure.
Because I want to make sure that the pilot program does everything that we think it's going to do.
But how many people are in that pilot program, would you say?
The first, I think there's maybe 20 some in the first pilot.
Just, that's it, 20, okay.
And
Could you name-
in the first cohort, I should say.
Yeah.
The first cohort, and the second cohort, Shannon, do you remember what that number was?
Well, it doesn't
Another
really
20
matter.
some?
I was just worried about the first one, because if it's a thing that we want to take a look at to see how it's providing help for Lenawee County, you know,
The proposal, so that, the proposal will also be, there's a cohort one. And then to save time and travel, especially with the doctor and the staff coming in to do the training, cohort two would start about 3 months later.
okay.
So they would run so that you could, there's some savings in having the training here around the same time and just scheduling it on different days.
The bottom line is it'll be about 20 people. to
In
start.
cohort one, and something similar to that potentially, maybe a little bit more. What's that, Shannon? 40 total? Yeah, I think it's 40 total in the two cohorts out of the 500 and some employees
20
that we
and
have.
20, 40
Yeah.
total.
Yeah, I've got
Okay.
that in my office.
And I would, Mr. Chairman, I'd be hopeful that, I mean, obviously it's just a recommendation, but I'd be hopeful. I think we all agree with the concept here, and I'd be hopeful that your committee would move to pass this on to Ways and Means.
Mr. Martis, do you have a question?
Just a couple quick comments, actually. Thank you to the folks who take the time to share this. As some of you know, my wife is a peds ICU nurse at Mott's Children's Hospital for 28 years. We understand what it's like to be in a high acuity environment and the stress it places on people. I, of course, share Commissioner Krasny's concern about costs, but that's very much moderated in my mind, because after seeing all our department heads in action for the past few years, I have full confidence if it wasn't effective, they would be quick to tell us that and make sure that the money's not wasted. So again, thank you for bringing this forward.
Mr. Krasny?
Is the program optional for department heads?
Oh, 100, yes. Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up. This would be proposed as a volunteer program, not a mandated program for employees. And there would not be, my proposal is there is no co-cost by the employee volunteering to go through this. Very quickly, without getting into the detail, most of you may be familiar with what we call the net asset distribution that we receive on an annual basis from Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority. We are receiving over $200,000 back on an annual basis that is not in our budget, that is not attached to any other kind of expenditure. That is where the funding is, that I'm looking at, because it is a risk mitigation, risk management type funding. It is the same funding model that is being used in Kent County and in Ottawa County for this exact program.
Got it.
Any questions? I know we need to end this meeting shortly because of another one coming on. I just want to ask the commissioners that are here to approach us with a very open mind. There's going to be some concern about the cost. And understand, I don't want to steal any thunder from his presentation, but there will be, the cost is not going to be as huge as it looks on the surface, because there will be a corresponding reduction in the number of sick days used, the number of times that people are off for whatever purposes, and you have to bring in others in overtime, and that's huge. That is a significant number. But at its root, what it is, I think, is a statement to our employees that we care, that we really care about not only your physical health, but we care about your mental health. And it's a huge statement to that effect. Okay, further questions, comments? We have an action request, and it's just for informational purposes, because I think the presentation will come to Ways and Means. So I'm not sure we need to act on the action request except to refer it to Ways and Means. If you desire so, we can have a motion to that effect if anybody so wants.
Good to show support.
Sorry?
I said it'd be good to show support from this committee.
You move, Commissioner Ugg, so moves?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to that effect.
Okay.
Support.
It's moved and supported. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Is there any other business to be brought to this committee? Any other business to be brought to this committee? Is there any public comment? Any public comment? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and supported, any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor say aye.